Welcome to Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. Well, if you watch to the end of these episodes, for a long time we've been using the word connection. How do you find a connection to the Civil War? And one of our patrons, a CWDD coffee grinder, Ethan Smith, is with us today, and that's what we're going to spend our time talking about. Welcome and thanks, Ethan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Ethan runs a nonprofit here in Southern Michigan called the Historical Campaign. Tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
Our focus is to bring history to you. That's our slogan. So what we do is we practically have a museum here, and we are taking it to schools across Southern Michigan.
So this is a mobile museum.
Absolutely.
And we want to talk about connecting students. What do you take? What's the range of things you show students?
We have a great range of things, artifacts. We're taking medical equipment, military equipment, civilian equipment, just a grand array of artifacts.
So like we're doing at the Digest, you're not talking about just the military or just civilians. You're talking about the entire sphere of the Civil War.
We're talking about the whole Civil War.
Great. Well, this is a big undertaking, especially on a nonprofit basis.
Yes.
You've got to have a passion for this.
Absolutely.
Where did it start?
It started when I was about 5 years old. I dressed up as Abraham Lincoln for Halloween, and it just grew from there. I fell in love with the Civil War history, and it took off from there.
Cool. Well, Abraham Lincoln's been somebody for you. I know I've seen him around here. Can you talk to me a little bit about where we find Abraham Lincoln in your museum?
Absolutely. So we start off with the election of 1860. So this is by far my favorite piece because I've built this from hand, and I have not seen another piece like this.
And what is this?
So this is a collage of signatures and campaign buttons from the election. So this is a genuine Abraham Lincoln signature with his running mate Hannibal Hamlin. So we have the Republicans, the Southern Democrat, John C. Breckinridge and Joseph Lane, the Northern Democrat, Stephen Douglas and Herschel Johnson, and the Constitutional Union Party, they have John Bell and Edward Everett.
Wow, what a great way to see this all together. Tell me, I know you have a love for it, and me with a political theory background, I find it interesting. How's this working in schools?
I love this piece. It's a great way to introduce the start of the war, but they're not drawn to it. They're drawn to more items that we have here in front of us that are more three-dimensional that they can actually see and relate to.
Okay, and so three-dimension is something that you're finding is working in schools.
Yes.
Walk me through. What do we have here, and what does this help you share with kids?
Well, they can connect to it. During the Civil War, there's drummer boys that are 13, 14 years old, and mostly I'm going to 8th grade U.S. history classes, and that's their age group. I can take this Civil War era snare drum in and tell them, picture yourself in this war carrying this drum and knowing that you're a target because you're giving signals to the rest of the army, you're boosting morale. So you're really just going in knowing that you're a target. And for them to be able to relate to that time, just over 150 years ago, this was occurring.
Wow, and of course the musicians don't always stay in the lines, but they end up working as stretcher bearers.
Yep.
You said you have some medical stuff.
Absolutely. We have the medical probes up there up front. The surgeon needs to locate where that bullet is before they cut the leg off or arm. And then after they cut off the leg, the soldier is going to be given this prosthetic leg or peg leg. And this is one from the Civil War era that we have on loan. And it really ties into, you can see prosthetics today, and 150 years ago, they're just, the innovation over time is just fantastic.
That's fantastic, and you also used a word there that's a big thing in education and different partners that we work with, like the Henry Ford. Innovation.
Yes.
Talk to me about innovation.
Absolutely. So one of the things I like to point out is the mini ball. And I like to call the Civil War the first modern war because it was the first war after the Industrial Revolution. So I show the mini ball, and then I take around the mini ball that hit somebody or hit something. And I ask students, what do you think this is? Most of the time I get a rock or a shell. And then it's kind of that aha moment when they can see the before and after to see what it actually does in the human body.
Well, if you go aha, you have a kid thinking, and that's a step towards a connection.
Absolutely. We also have the friction primer. So the kids who are interested in the artillery.
Well, I've said one of the ways that will connect people to history is always through food, and I see a couple
Yes.
of knives here. Tell me a story.
These knives belong to a soldier named James. He was a professor at Hiram College and became the president there in 1858. He then he went to the House of Representatives and helped form the 42nd Ohio. And he was promoted to lieutenant colonel, and after the Battle of Mill Creek, it was a small Union victory, he was promoted to colonel a couple weeks after. So this soldier, James, his last name is Garfield, and these are the knives that James Garfield used during the Civil War.
And of course, later.
Later, James Garfield became our 20th president.
Fantastic. And so the grouping you have there is those pieces. Well, I see what looks like a cannonball here.
Yes, that is a 12-pound cannonball that was recovered from Gettysburg before it became a national park.
So you work in southern Michigan. How do you help these kids connect geographically?
So I go all the way from Jackson County and surrounding areas. So I travel a lot. I'm willing to travel because I love going to schools. These are the reasons why I've started this organization, and the students really make the impact for me.
Great. What's the significance of the chair?
So that chair is very special to me as well. It belonged to Captain Alfred Brooks of the 17th Michigan. And it's a special piece to me because I reenact with the 17th Michigan. So to have a piece of unit history is unique, and I'm honored to have it.
You said Lincoln started it all for you. I know down center we have a very special piece of Lincoln history here.
Yes. Another really great piece of the collection. There was only 30 of them made. There's thousands of different mourning ribbons produced for Lincoln after his assassination, but this one, there was only 30 of them made. It belonged to one of the 30 who was on Lincoln's funeral train for the duration of his funeral.
Wow. So am I looking at the entire historical campaign collection right here?
Absolutely not. You're looking at about a quarter of it. We have many great artifacts that students can relate to.
Well, sum it all up. What do you hope a student takes out of this, and how do you think the best way to reach them is?
We travel with the schools all year round, but mainly the 8th grade U.S. history students are going to be studying the Civil War in the spring. So what I want them to do is to take this day that I spend with them and inspire them to do research during the summer. If they can do the research on their own, they're going to want to start coming to reenactments as a spectator.
Or join a Sons of Union Veterans unit, or
Absolutely.
join a round table. There's a number of different ways for people to connect with Civil War history.
Yes, we're inspiring students to further educate themselves on the Civil War.
Well, that's a big thing we're doing here at Civil War Digital Digest. Thank you so much for sharing this part of the collection. There's going to be a link in the description for how to get a hold of Ethan. I hope this has given you some ideas if you're drawn to work with students of different ways to help them find a connection and find a greater connection yourself. Thanks for spending your time with Civil War Digital Digest, and thanks to Ethan for coming out and being with us today. If you've enjoyed the episode, go ahead and hit like and share it out for us. We'll see you in a few weeks.